Alright, hello everyone and welcome to NFL Discussion. I'm your host and NFL enthusiast Dougie Doug. In today's episode we're going to be discussing Thursday Night Football Week 7 of the 2023 NFL season. Jacksonville Jaguars versus New Orleans Saints. And well, this game looked like it was going to be one-sided. The Jaguars jumped out to a 24-9 lead, but the Saints said not so fast. They figured out how to play offense in the second half and were able to tie the game up before Jacksonville would score a touchdown in the last minutes of the They tied the game up. Jacksonville scored. New Orleans did not. Jacksonville gets a win and they're 5-2 to start the season. And with that, we're going to get right into the action, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence completed 20 of 29 passes for 204 yards and 1 touchdown, added 8 carries for 59 additional yards. Wearing a brace and battling through a knee injury on only 3 days rest, Lawrence naturally posted a new career high for rushing. His total was over 60 before a couple of late kneel downs. Lawrence was also crisp as a passer, save for his connections with Calvin Ridley and Jamar Agnew. The former was locked up by tight coverage. Lawrence and the offense's effort did grow a bit lackadaisical after building a 24-9 second-half lead. The Saints managed to tie it, but Lawrence then instantly conducted what would prove to be the game-winning drive, capping it by hitting Christian Kirk in stride against a glacially slow Tyrann Mathieu. Kirk would then make a 44-yard house call. And speaking of Christian Kirk, he caught 6 of 6 targets for 90 yards and a touchdown. He scored for the second time in as many games and reaching at least 78 yards receiving for the third time in 4 weeks. So as I mentioned, he had that 44-yard touchdown where he put Tyrann Mathieu on skates and then zipped up the sidelines for the house call. Kirk is now out-targeting Calvin Ridley 55-48 for the season. Now, that's not a commanding advantage, but it is growing more difficult to maintain the illusion that Ridley is the number one wideout in this offense. And Travis Etienne also had a couple touchdowns. Stat-wise, the 14 carries for 53 yards, not the most impressive stat line, but did have a couple touchdowns. So Jacksonville got out to an early lead, but as I mentioned, the offense did grow a little lackadaisical, but when it came time to put the game away, they did just that. Give credit to Trevor Lawrence. He came into this game questionable, but he put a brace on his knee, went out there and played, and it held up. I'm sure they probably didn't plan on him running the ball, but instincts took over, and, well, when he needed to make a play with his legs, he did just that. Captain Kirk got the game winner, and the defense, they played good. Granted, in the second half, they kind of bent a little bit with the Saints rallying to make a comeback, but in the end, they did not break, and were able to. They did not break. They stonewalled Alvin Kamara multiple times trying to get into the end zone. New Orleans Saints. Derek Carr completed 33 of 55 passes for 301 yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. Carr's least efficient, healthy game in the Saints uniform also featured his 15th career pick 6. Only Matthew Stafford has thrown for more since Carr entered the league in 2014. It was an extremely discouraging effort, one that only took on any life whatsoever with the Saints in desperation second-half comeback mode. To Carr's credit, he appeared to seal the Saints' rally from a 24-9 deficit, only to see Foster Moreau drop a pass in the end zone with 30 seconds remaining. Carr would then miss Chris Olave on the next play, and that was that. There was a curious moment early in the half where Olave cut off a route where it became evident Carr couldn't throw a catchable ball on the play. That ball would land several yards out of bounds, but Carr was still pissed with the young wideout. Olave also had a drop that was probably more of a bad throw from Carr. The chemistry between Carr and Olave has been severely lacking since Carr's shoulder injury. Now battling a groin injury, Carr has 10 days to get healthy for Week 8 against the Colts. Alvin Kamara rushed 17 times for 62 yards, catching 12 of 14 targets for 91 additional yards. And Kamara is now up to 35 catches through 4 games, and that would be an elite number for a wide receiver. It's absurd for a running back. Kamara has yet to handle fewer than 24 touches this season. The Nets' 29 touches came even with Jamal Williams returning from injured reserve. The only thing missing was a touchdown after Kamara got brick-walled on a number of true second-half goal line carries. It's tempting to think the Saints will have to dial it back at some point for wear and tear reasons. But this is a 3-4 team, in desperation mode. The offense the offense still has issues. I mean, the defense came up with a couple of turnovers, and the offense couldn't really convert any points out of it too. I mean, they were settling for field goals, not able to drive the ball down the field. Give them credit in the second half. They did rally to make it a game. Michael Thomas had an absolutely sick catch along the sidelines, but ultimately came up short in the end. Foster Moreau dropped that pass. Feel bad for the guy. I know he feels sick about it, but there's no excusing that. Yeah, that was all you, and you dropped it. So again, go give credit to their defense. After Jacksonville put up 24 points, the defense kind of clamped down and allowed the offense to make that rally in the first place. But again, they just came up short. So still some issues to work out here amongst this team. I guess good news, they play in the NFC South. So they just kind of have to. Yeah, the Falcons are playing. The Falcons have a quarterback going through some growing pains. Panthers have yet to win a game. Buccaneers are best team in the division, so I think the Saints just kind of got to contend with them. But yeah, this is clearly a team that is struggling and a bit desperate, sitting at 3-4. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this episode of NFL Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.